Hey, good evening, everybody. A really quick housekeeping rule. We just want to let you all know that we will be beginning at 7 tonight. That is because we do have a number of individuals who are coming in that are stuck in traffic. So we do apologize for the lateness. But while we are here, we just want to let you all know, for those of you that are visiting, if you all need a restroom, to my right, we do have, through these double doors, the men and women's restroom. And then also to my left down over here, there's also a restroom in that area. We want to thank you all so much for coming out tonight. And once again, we'll be starting at about 7 o'clock.
Check, check, one, two. Check, one, two. Check, one, two. Mic check, one, two. Check, one, two, one, two. Mic 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 check, check, one, two, one, two. Mic check, one, two.
is killer.
I love that
Oh,
jacket.
thank
Listen,
you.
yes, it's very
Thank
stylish.
you.
Trying to get comfortable in this chair.
I hate these chairs.
Yeah,
They're
it
made
feels a
they're
little
made for
bit
little
more.
people.
Yes. Okay, welcome every. Okay, let's do that one. And I Construct 19 constituents will have a chance to hear from the four candidates vying for the District 19 Senate seat left vacant after the death of Senator John Scott Jr. The 19th District of South Carolina encompasses the northern part of Richland County, which includes Blythewood, Forest Acres, and Irmo. And the four candidates vying for the Senate seat include Tamika Isaac Devine, former city of Columbia. I'm gonna look at you. That's how. That's how I'm gonna do that. That's how I'm gonna do that. Tamika Isaac Devine, former city of Columbia councilwoman, in which she served in that role for 19, in which she served for 19 years. Michael A. Addison, who ran in the 2020 Democratic primary. Chris Nellums, who previously ran for state agricultural commissioner in 2022. Kizzy Smalls, who previously ran for a seat in the House in 2022.
Okay. The special election will take place on next Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Early voting continues through tomorrow, Friday, December 29th.
Tonight's forum will begin shortly and will be moderated by Friendly Clairvaux. Clairvaux.
Clear vote.
And will be moderated by Friendly Clairvaux. And will be moderated by Friendly Clairvaux. I don't know why it's always like this when you about to do something
Y'all,
important.
y'all do this how often? How well should
Listen,
you know his
listen.
name?
Tonight's forum will begin shortly and will be moderated by Friendly Clairvaux. Thank you for joining us in person by Friendly Clairvaux. Thank you for joining us in person and online. Thank you for joining us in person and
Senator John Scott was elected to the State House in 1990. What we're going to do, we're going to turn?
We'll be using his camera. There's some technical difficulties.
Okay.
So y'all gonna be facing his way.
Oh, okay.
We,
All right,
we've
we
been having technical.
Do we need to shift?
if you're gonna move
Yeah.
Do you want her to go?
yeah, we're gonna move the table.
Angle. All right. Y'all can stand up.
Okay.
Okay, y'all can go ahead.
Ooh, that's awkward.
Yeah, it's a little.
This is
so
awkward.
This
Which
camera,
who?
yeah, which camera?
The center camera? The center shot? Okay.
Now, can we move it over
Right
a
there.
little bit more?
Yeah.
Can we move it over a little bit more?
They did.
Y'all are good.
Okay, I guess we're
Okay.
gonna have to think.
Yeah. Y'all are good. Plan B is just him.
Okay. So, center shot. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna just have my paper right here.
Yeah. All righty then.
Right?
Okay. Welcome everyone. I'm Tanya Gardner.
Is the cameras on? Can you hear? Can they hear us?
I don't know.
How do we know if the mic is turned on or not? It's green.
It's green. So are we on? Are we on? Where'd TJ?
TJ, is the mic on? The mic's on. Check, mic check.
Green. Welcome, everyone. I'm Tanya Gardner.
And I'm Jasmine Goodwin, and thank you for joining us for tonight's District 19 Candidate Forum, where constituents will get a chance to hear from the 4 candidates vying for the District 19 Senate seat left vacant after the death of Senator John Scott Jr.
Senator John Scott Jr. was elected to the State House in 1990, where he served for 18 years. Scott then served in the 19th District of the Senate from 2009 until his death in August of 2023.
The 19th District of South Carolina encompasses the northern part of Richland County, which includes Blythewood, Forest Acres, and Irmo. The 4 candidates vying for the Senate seat include Tamika Isaac Devine, former City of Columbia Councilwoman in which she served for 19 years, Michael Addison, who ran in the 2022 Democratic primary, Chris Nellums, who previously ran for State Agricultural Commissioner in 2022, and Kizzy Smalls, who previously ran for a seat in the House in 2022.
The special election will take place on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Early voting continues through tomorrow, Friday, December 29th.
Tonight's forum will begin shortly and will be moderated by Friendy Clairvaux. Thank you for joining us in person and online.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. I know it's holiday season and there are a lot of things going on, a lot of activities, but it was important for District 19 to kind of spark the flame a little bit, because a lot of people don't realize that there is another election in a few days. So on the 2nd, right in the middle of all the holidays, is a very, very important election. So we wanted the candidates to come back out so the community could re-engage them and then get broader awareness out to the community so that we don't flop on Tuesday. So in a moment, we're going to bring the candidates in, we're going to introduce them, open up in prayer, and get the candidate forum going. I think they're bringing the candidates in now. I don't want to open prayer until they come in. I'm going to let Friendy Clairvaux. Friendy Clairvaux is moderating for us tonight from Watch Fox TV. Friendy Clairvaux. All right, so we're going to be very conscious of time. I know some of you may have thought we were starting at 6:30. We knew that 6:30 wouldn't be a good time typically because of traffic. So giving everybody time to be here. So I think we're going to get everybody in, let Friendy introduce them. We're going to open in prayer, and then I'll come back with a couple more remarks.
Bishop Davis, thank you so much for tonight and allowing us to be here. On behalf of Watch Fox 57, I want to thank you all for allowing me to moderate tonight. And as we talked about the Senate District 19 seat, as we're getting ready for the candidates to come forward, the question is, what is so important about the Senate District 19? A little bit of history for you all. In the late 1980s, the South Carolina Attorney General Assembly essentially created a district that was predominantly African American and allowed this community to have a voice in the General Assembly. So our first senator was DeQuincy Newman, and then afterwards we had Kay Patterson. And from Kay Patterson, we had the late John Scott, and now this vacant seat is open, and we have these 4 candidates who will be here tonight. We'll be hearing from them. It is important because each district in South Carolina carries weight, because if someone is not representing you, your interests, and what you have to say, then therefore there's a major concern or a problem. And so that's the reason why the General Assembly made sure that they opened up the Senate District 19 seat. Now, we do have a few housekeeping rules just for you all. There will be a QR code that will come up on the screen, and we're asking you all to please scan that QR code. And then also as well, if you have any questions that you would like to be answered, we will try to get them. Now, the ushers do have some note cards if you want to write that down. what we're going to do, we will open it up with the candidates, and we're going to give them a 2-minute max each where they will introduce themselves. Then we will go into a number of questions surrounding education, public works, insurance, all these other questions as well. And then once the candidates answer those questions, then we'll have an opportunity to open up to the floor for some questions. Now, we will try to get to your questions as soon as possible. However, if one of the candidates actually answers your question already, then we won't answer their question for time purposes, because we want to make sure that everyone is out of here by 8:30 tonight, okay? Everybody understands that? We also want to ask everybody to please go ahead and mute your cell phones at this time. We want to make sure all phones are muted. Once again, for those of you that are just coming in, if you need the restroom, to my right, we do have the restrooms. And then also to my left of these double doors, there is a restroom as well. We will be beginning shortly. If anyone also has any other questions, we do have some ushers who are available. If you want to fill out those note cards there to hand it to them, then you could do that as well. As we mentioned tonight, we do have 4 candidates who will be here, and will be starting shortly. All right, so the candidates will be coming in on that side over here. And again, early voting tomorrow is the final day, so we want to make sure that you all get a chance to do that, as well as the election that will be on Tuesday. For those of you all who might be out of town, go ahead and try your best to vote tomorrow so there will be no issues. We do have the candidates that are walking in now, the candidates for the District 19 seat, and we all know that they'll be coming in up into the podium, and when they come in, we will definitely already begin to introduce them and have them speak and let them know, let them address the crowd so we can know exactly what it is that they have for us. And as they're coming in, we're going to go ahead and call forth Bishop Eric Davis of Word of God Church and Ministries. And also a point of disclaimer, Word of God Church and Ministries does not endorse any candidate. The church is simply holding this event for the organizer. We wanted to make sure that we put that disclaimer out. Bishop Eric Davis.
We're going to ask Pastor Clear to come and lead us in the opening prayer.
Good evening. I know you're comfortable, but will you please stand? Let's go before the throne of grace. Father, I do thank you so much for your grace, your mercy, your love, your kindness, your peace, your tenderness. Thank you for this opportunity, Lord God, for us to come together as one. You said that you are happy, you're joyous when your brothers, your children come together as one in unity of heart and mind. We come together for a very, very special event and circumstance and situation. The awesome thing about it is, God, you've already seen the end of this before the beginning. Let us ask the proper questions, Lord God, and those who are running for the position will give the proper answer. In the midst of this, Lord God, you'll be honored, glorified, and the right individual will be put in place according to your plan that's been laid out before the foundation of the earth. We stand in agreement, giving you all the praise, the glory, and all the honor. In the mighty and precious name of Jesus, we do pray. Let the Redeemer of the Lord say amen.
All right, thank you so very much for that. All right, our candidates are in the house. We are excited to find. Let's give them a hand. So the time limits, and then we're going to go forth and let each candidate will introduce themselves. Each candidate will have a 2-minute max to introduce themselves. I will have a timer. Once that timer goes off, we ask the candidate to please stop speaking so we can move over to the next person. The same will go on during the questions as well. When we ask a question, each candidate will have 2 minutes. If there is a rebuttal that someone would like to have, that person will have 1 minute to rebut, and then we will continue to move on forward, okay? All right, let us go ahead and begin with our candidates. We'll go ahead starting off with Ms. Kizzy Smalls. If you could introduce yourself to us, 2-minute max.
Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear me okay? It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here with you all. I thank you all for coming out. Just a little bit about myself. I am a wife, a mother. I'm currently employed in the affordable housing industry as a compliance specialist. I'm also a licensed realtor. I currently serve on the Community Relations Council here in Richland County. I have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I also serve on the Midland Step Charter School Board in Fairfield County. I am a peace ambassador for a group called ITSB. It stands for the Institute of Black Solidarity with Israel. And what we do is mend relations between blacks and Jews. And we are fighting anti-Semitism that is on the rise. I have over 20 plus years of dedicated community service in which I have served in a variety of different capacities. I've also been working on the grassroots level in the political arena, building those relationships and making those connections to help me do my job as your next senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Nellums.
Yes. My name is Chris Nellums, as you well know. I am a husband first, been married for over 41 years, 4 children, 16 grands. I always like to start off with my grands. I have 4 sets of grand twins. I'm excited about the family. I also like to share with you that I'm homegrown. I lived in District 19 all my life. And I always like to use this slogan because I am a pastor, chief pastor, and an entrepreneur. I always share with folk that I buried your dead. I've clothed those that were homeless. I have helped with those being a coach, basketball, football, baseball. I have, over the years, worked in the community as a community liaison with the North Columbia Civic Club president. So I'm well versed on what's going on in District 19. I'm excited about this race. I'm excited about the transformation that will come by y'all listening to us and understanding that we have to make a difference in this community. So I am excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamika Isaac Devine.
Good evening, everyone. First, want to thank the bishop of this house, Bishop Eric Davis, and the Word of God community for hosting us this evening. I'm Tamika Isaac Devine. I am a community advocate, a wife, a mom, an attorney, a lifelong resident of District 19, and I served this community for almost 2 decades as an at-large member of Columbia City Council. As a public servant, I've dedicated my life to investing in this community, making sure that not only are we working together to build our community, but also making sure that we have elected officials that are responsive, who understand how to get things done and are looking to move our community forward. I am very proud to be the Democratic nominee for this seat, Senate seat, District 19. And as your next state senator, I look forward to working with you to make sure that we're improving our community, that we're addressing gun violence in our community, that we are working together to build our communities, our neighborhoods, investing in our infrastructure, making sure that we're protecting our rights that are being threatened every single day at the State House. As your next state senator, I'm looking forward to continue the fight that Senator Scott started, making sure that not only is District 19 present and accounted for, but that we're a force to be reckoned with at the State House. I look forward to answering your questions this evening, and thank you all for attending.
Next up, and candidates, if you could please speak loudly for us. We are streaming this tonight, and we want to make sure that the folks on social media can pick up everything that you all say as well. Our next candidate, Michael Addison.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Michael Addison. I'm the independent candidate for this district. Now, some of you might not be familiar with what an independent candidate is. I'm the guy that works across the aisle with the Republicans, the Democrats, the conservatives, the liberals, with everyone, so we could come up with solutions. My goal is to be that bridge to justice, that bridge to fairness. And as an independent candidate, I'm able to meet and go to all of the events that everyone has, because we live in a red state. We know that. This is a blue district, but we live in a red state. And we just can't go there without having any type of relationships, because you get nothing done if you don't have relationships. So I'm a chiropractor of 32 years, chiropractic physicians. I've treated over 15,000 patients. I've met people from all walks of life. I'm an environmentalist. I'm the chairman of the NAACP Environmental Committee for the state conference. I want to know when companies are coming to our communities that our communities are going to be safe. Our drinking water is going to be safe. There's not going to be pollution that's going to cause problems to our children. And so also I'm interested in jobs, but not so much just any type of job, but decent jobs for those who have the skill set. And if we don't have the skill set, we have Midlands Tech and other institutions around that we can work in a collaborative effort to ensure that we have the skill set. My goal as a candidate is to impress upon you to check out what we're going to do going forward. We can't always live off what has happened in the past. We got to move forward with some new ideas, new energy, creativity. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I think it was President Obama that called it insanity. But I'm Dr. Michael Addison, candidate for State Senate, District 19, and I'm excited about being here.
Thank you. For our first question, we will start off, since we began with Ms. Smalls, we're going to start off with Dr. Addison. And this question will be for all the candidates. Back in April, there was a mass shooting at Meadow Lake Park, which sits in District 19. 11 people were shot, and fortunately, all survived. As the new senator for that district, what are your realistic plans to address gun violence? 2 minutes each.
Well, you know, I own guns, and my children own guns as well. Guns don't kill people. People do. I drive a car. We have about 10 cars, and people get in accidents and they die. But we have driver's education at the high schools. Why can't we have gun control education? We're not going to stop people from possessing guns. And if somebody come to you to take your gun, you better look at them sideways. Why you want my gun? Because your gun is for the protection of your family, not for you to go out and commit a crime. Because you own a gun don't make you a criminal. And so it's unfortunate that our young people have not been trained on the proper use of guns. They think, some of them think that guns are the resolution to conflict. So I think part of gun control education, which is part of my platform, not to take people guns away, but teach them the value of guns, what guns are used for, the historical value of guns, and also start talking about conflict resolution. See, there's a lot of mental illness stuff going on, and people take the gun as the final say-so. You know, if I can't agree with you, and if you embarrass me, then I'm going to get even. And a lot of that comes from some of our music, some of our Hollywood stuff and TV. You know, we usually emulate what we see. So as the senator, what I would push for is proper gun control education so that people in all walks of life, you know, because I even told my mother today, I said, you need to think about having a gun for your own protection, because oftentimes you're home by yourself. And sometimes people may think that our seniors are vulnerable and they need to protect themselves. My great-grandmother, Beulah, lived to be 97, and she had a gun and a rifle right beside her pillow and would use it. And so it's important that people know you're protected. So I support gun control education.
Thank you. Tamika Isaac Devine.
Thank you so much for that question. First of all, we need to look at where we are and what are the causes of some of these issues. You can't have one solution that was going to affect gun violence in our community, but you have to make sure that you are addressing various things. Number one, we have to make sure that we have sensible gun legislation. I'm not talking about taking guns from people, but we also need to make sure that we understand that there are laws that are being proposed that are making our community less safe. In January, constitutional carry will be in front of the Senate. This will allow people with no permit and no background check to buy a gun. And we need to make sure that we are addressing those issues. You talk about having a car. Well, you have to have a permit and a license to drive a car. You should have the same to have a gun. And so as your next state senator, I will work with people to make sure that we are addressing our gun laws. As a former city councilwoman, I was on council when we did a gun buyback program where we took thousands of guns off the streets of Columbia. We also enacted programs for our young people so that they can learn conflict resolution, so they can learn how to address guns in their community. And then also as a member of Moms Demand Action, I've been working with moms across the state, not only to educate our communities, but also have gun locks available to people who are lawful gun owners, but also to introduce legislation such as making sure that people who have guns in cars and leave them unlocked and our guns end up on our streets, that there is a way to register and track those guns. So we have to look at a variety of things. As a city council person, I worked with other people, Republicans and independents on city council to unanimously pass gun ordinances, unfortunately that have been repealed now, but those are the types of things that I will do as a state senate, and as your next state senator, I will address all of those things. Thank you.
Chris Nims.
Yes. We all know that the Second Amendment gives us the right to bear arms. And I think that's important for us to understand that. Going forward, one of the things is that most of us don't even understand the backdrop of the event that happened at Meadow Lakes. And because we don't understand and know how it started, sometimes we at awe about the event in and of itself. From our understanding and from those that were at Keenan High School, it was more of young people wanting to get together and have time for themselves. And so that leads me to understanding that it wasn't just the violence that happened, but the event in and of itself and what they wanted to achieve. And that was, they had their independence and they wanted to have their freedom. And so sometimes we don't have the proper venue for our young people to have the freedom that they need or they're trying to express. And then as the event moved forward and how things came about, people got hurt. We can't deny that. But then anytime someone get hurt, the first thing we say is we're going to take away the guns. And so I think we have to reevaluate the whole situation and just look at the backdrop of all these events that happen when we start talking about gun violence and look at what we can do. Now, the first thing is gun education. I was in Newberry County, and Newberry County has a gun club for youth. In Newberry County, they have a gun club for youth. They're educating youth on how to use guns.
All right, thank you. Ms. Smalls?
I did some research on this earlier on, and the study that I saw, the state of South Carolina is currently ranked about 22 in the nation. So that means we're right in the middle when it comes to gun laws. We don't have the most gun laws and we don't have the least. So there is some wiggle room in there to do some things as it relates to storage locks, as it relates to domestic violence issues, making sure that when they are released from jail that they don't immediately get a hold of a gun to do something that they should not do. Laws like that in place. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that we need to protect our rights. Again, I also believe that we need to make sure that there's education and awareness. We need to know the history of guns, because when we know the history of guns, we will make sure that no one is trying to take our guns, especially us as Black Americans. It's important that we know the history. Also, we need to make sure that, well, in this study, let me go back. In this study, it showed that California had the most gun laws. Chicago, Illinois had the most gun laws, and yet they still have issues. So to go back to what Dr. Addison said, it doesn't matter how many gun laws we have a sin problem. And so these are issues that we have to deal with in the family. We have to deal with this in the community. Government can only do but so much, because we have to self-govern ourselves and make sure that we are making the right decisions every day.
Thank you. Moving over to our next question, dealing with hate crime. In Conway, the Myrtle Beach area, over Thanksgiving weekend, a white couple is accused of harassing their black neighbors with verbal and online threats, culminating with the couple burning a cross in view of their neighbor's yard. The couple was arrested. However, this incident is engendering calls for the hate crime bill in South Carolina. South Carolina is only one of two states out of all the 50 states that does not have a hate crime law. Do you or do you not support a hate crime laws bill in South Carolina? And we begin with Ms. Smalls.
I do support hate crime. Actually is on the rise as it relates to political parties, so I can even see that we adding something about that, because as a black Republican, I have received threats myself. There's a serious issue. These crimes are on the rise, and we know that a lot of people feel vulnerable. So I do believe that we can add a hate crime law.
Chris?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, excuse me.
I think, yes, we do need to deal with the hate crime. I reflect back on a friend of mine who served with me when I was pastoring in the AME church. And the most shocking thing was to wake up and hear that a brother that served with me for years, Clemente Pinckney, was gone in Bible study, just trying to do the Lord's will. And yet this young man is still sitting there. And sometimes we don't realize, and I say we don't realize that the more things change, the more things stay the same. And racism just didn't rear its wicked head. It's been under the surface. It's been subliminal for a while. And now every now and then it picks its head up, and then we don't address it. But I think we need to deal with it. And the community has to deal with it, but they need some teeth, and hate crime will be that teeth.
Thank you. Tamika Isaac Devine.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's long overdue, being one of two states, especially considering the hate crimes that we've having here in South Carolina. It should have come up. The hate crime bill has passed the House of Representatives and is currently sitting in the state Senate. And so our state Senate, whoever goes to the state Senate in January, will be in a position to move a hate crime bill forward. Columbia City Council was one of the very first municipalities to pass a hate crime ordinance in this state. And after we passed that, I had city council members from all over the state saying, how did you all get that passed? And what we did is we talked about, number one, the statistics, and the proof is there on the hate crimes that are happening, but cannot be prosecuted because we don't have a hate crime ordinance or hate crime bill. And then secondly, you look at the characteristics that are there in the bill. I don't think that political party is a basis to have a hate crime bill, but certainly when you have folks who are looking at targeting someone because of their race in the state of South Carolina, and knowing our history, is long overdue. And as the next state senator, not only will I make sure that it gets on the floor for a vote for the Senate, but that we work with the folks who are opposing it to actually get it passed.
Thank you. Michael Addison.
Friendly, we're talking about hate. Legislation won't change hate. Legislation won't change discrimination. It won't change rape. But I tell you one thing, if you come to my family and you acting up, we're gonna protect ourselves. And see, what's going on in the country, and the elephant in the room that no one talks about, is most black women are single. You know, you don't have your man there. And brothers, we gotta go back home and protect our women. Because when people know A woman has a man there with her. They may come with a gun, but you stand a better chance having a couple there to defend your family, because it takes the couple to make the family. And so people look at us women as being vulnerable and gullible. And so we see a lot of hate coming towards black women in particular. But the legislation is not going to change it if people know they can come in and take advantage of you. Take, for instance, a police station. When the last time the police station got robbed? They don't come and rob the police station. Why? Because they got guns. They can protect themselves. And so we appear to be a group that is extremely vulnerable. And so no matter how much legislation we get, even though it's very important, we got to change the mindset that we are a family. We got to go back to the village approach. We got to check on the seniors down the road. You got to let people know, don't just roll up in here over at Ms. Johnson's house doing all that cussing and nastiness in front of her yard. Let's have some respect. Let's put some respect back in our communities. I know it's not what you want to hear, but it's on us, though. Legislation won't change the way people think about us unless we change it ourselves. They got to know, if you put your foot on my neck, I'm going to try to break your neck in the process. I'm not going to take nothing off of you. I'm going to defend myself. I'm not going to start nothing, but I sure will end something.
Thank you. Now, right now, there are a number of pre-filed bills at the State House that lawmakers are looking to address come January 9th when the General Assembly reconvenes. So it's an election year, so we do know there's a lot of hot button topic issues. There is one House bill, 4538. And in a nutshell, the bill provides that every public school restroom and changing facility must be designated for use only by members of one sex or face civil penalties. As the next senator, how would you vote on this particular bill that designates bathrooms for only one sex? We'll begin with Ms. Smalls.
Thank you for that question. I agree with that law that we should have one restroom for males and one restroom for females. I stand by that. We're already having some issues in some schools now where they're fighting against this. Some children are being said that they're being raped. Girls are feeling uncomfortable in locker rooms. It's just too much going on. And again, we have to know the history. We fought as women to have our own restrooms, and we want to keep our own restroom. There's some things that goes on in these restrooms. We don't want men in there. And so I agree with that law.
Thank you. Mr. Wells?
You said Wells or Nellums?
Nellums.
Okay.
Your time is ticking.
Amen. I tell you, I was in a Bojangles, and it's funny. I was in a Bojangles, and it had male and female on there, and that's confusing to me. Should be male. Restroom over here should be female. I think we got a morality problem. We have a morality problem. We spiritually, we have declined to a level, and we need to reverse it. And the only way that we can reverse it is that we have to rethink and go back to our old landmark. Most of y'all preachers around here know that. Go back to where we come from and see God face in this. And then this thing that we're talking about in the legislation, I mean, they know better. Everyone knows better. The stuff that's coming is coming in from the side, and we need to deal with it just as it is. Vote it down. No, one bathroom for men, one bathroom for women. And then the other issues that come to the side, if you want a third bathroom and you want to do what you want to do, that's on you. But we need to clean this thing up. And I think our problem is that we're having too many options, and we're overthinking this process, and it's a very simple process. Men here, women over here.
Tamika Isaac Divine.
Thank you. It's funny when people say you can't legislate morality or hate crimes, stop hate crimes with legislation, but then you want to also legislate how people identify themselves. So first of all, what I would say about the bill is that what I know is that, especially as an attorney, the devil is in the details. And so not reading the bill, I'm not going to comment specifically on this particular bill. But the general notion of the bill is, why does it have to be either or? Why can't it be a both and? I went into a restaurant the other day. It has 4 bathrooms, and they're all single bathrooms. I go in the bathroom, I do what I need to do, and we do understand that we have children who, and whatever you want to say the reason is, we have children that identify differently than they feel they were born. And so I think that we've got to stop ignoring that that is a reality in our schools and understand that kids need to feel comfortable. So why can't we have single bathrooms for children who feel like they are one sex, but they biologically are another sex, and let them have a single bathroom, let them have a single dressing room. I don't believe that we need to I won't say co-mingle. I don't believe that we need to have general bathrooms that any and everybody can go into, because that is dangerous. But I also believe that we have to recognize that we have children, that the suicide rate of children are going way up because of a lot of these issues. And in order to help them with these issues, we need to make sure that we have social workers in our classrooms. We need to make sure that we are understanding what our children are dealing with these days. And so as a legislator, it's not going to be my job to legislate that
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll fix that next time.
Mr. Michael Addison.
Well, as Tamika said, certainly we can't legislate morality, but I'm in agreement with the panel is that we should have restrooms for men, restrooms for women, or girls and boys, and I think we should also maybe have single restrooms where anyone can use. But I think we're referring to locker rooms in particular at the high school level or even at the collegiate level. We have co-ed dorms at the collegiate level, but these are young adults. When it comes to our children, they are very impressionable, and they need our guidance. And so I think making sure that our young girls are properly protected when they go to the restroom or bathroom, and our young boys also. And so I would look at, and I would argue to the fact that, hey, let's continue to individualize these bathrooms for male and female, and also if we need to have a unisex bathroom, or what Tamika is referring to, where anyone could use that bathroom, that would be fine as well. We're in America. We can have any options that we want, but we have to safeguard our children because they're so impressionable and very vulnerable. So I would support legislation that safeguards our children.
Thank you. Along the lines of that, another hot topic issue, talking about gender transitioning. House Bill 4619, known as South Carolina's Children Deserve Help Not Harm Act, would prohibit or stop doctors and other healthcare providers from providing gender transition procedures to those under 18. It would also prohibit public funds for going to such procedure. As the next senator, we'll begin with you, Mr. Addison. How would you vote?
Hello? That kind of threw me off. But could you just give me a little bit more on the question?
Okay. Since there was interference, I will do this again. House Bill 4619 is known as South Carolina's Children Deserve Help Not Harm Act, and it would prohibit or stop doctors and other healthcare providers from providing gender transition procedures to those under 18. It would also prohibit public funds for going towards such procedure. As a senator, how would you all vote for this particular House bill?
My approach would be a common sense approach. I'm from a large family. My grandmother had 11 pregnancies, 13 children. My mother has 5 children, and she has 7 sisters. So I'm the only boy out of 5 kids, so I'm raised around a lot of women. But growing up, my sisters got dolls, I got a little toy, and they got all the stuff. They got bras and panties everywhere, and I just got my little drawer somewhere, but my mother taught us the difference in male and female. She showed me the value of being the man, being a young boy, budding into a man, And I think there's so much confusion with TV and music and things with our children. But once again, our children are very impressionable. And so because of that, we have to continue to give them guidance. And so we can't let legislation or we can't let different things sway our children. It's just like teaching our kids right from wrong. You tell your kid, look, Johnny, don't go steal from someone because it's wrong. Don't go harm someone because it's wrong. We teach them our values. We teach them about procreation. That's the whole purpose, procreation, while we're here. And if we don't share that in a common sense approach to our children, there might be some confusion. I mean, understanding, I have 4 sisters and I understand what a woman goes through. I witnessed it with my sisters as they grew older. But it never made me want it to be them because my mother made me feel so good about being the man, being a boy. And so I think our men folk, it's so important to get back in our communities, take our communities back, get back in there with our children, no matter what the system says, and let's take care of our families.
Thank you. Tamika Isaac Devine.
Thank you. And from what, I've not read this bill, and from what you read, it doesn't say anything about parental consent. And so I would be very opposed to a legislative bill passing saying that if I as a parent went to a doctor and was okay with my child having some kind of surgery and the law says I can't. That's just like in our state right now that if I am a woman who is pregnant and as after 6 weeks and I determine that my fetus is not viable, or because my health is concerning, that you are telling me that I, as an adult, cannot go to a doctor and have an abortion even to save my life. And so we've got to think about where we are in our state. We have legislators that are passing bills that are convenient to their personal ideologies, and it doesn't matter what happens in the home. I think that if I, as a parent, feel like my child needs any kind of health care, and it doesn't matter what kind of health care, I, as a parent, should have a right to do that. So that particular bill does not sound like one that I would support. Now, if you're under 18, though, I think that any medical procedure you have needs to be in the consultation with your family, your parents, and your doctor. And after consultation with your family and your doctor, if you all make a decision that all of you agree with, then that should be the decision. So I would not support anything that takes away a parent's right to make a medical decision for their child. And I certainly would go even further where we are with the abortion ban. This is exactly where we are with the abortion ban, and we have got to stop legislating what people do with their individual bodies.
Thank you. Mr. Christian Elms.
Yes. The strange thing about this particular legislation is that, and I think everyone agreed that the research behind it can be skewed. So we have to really do our own research on it. And then it started talking about public dollars. So what we are legislating is something that all of us will actually have to buy into and pay into. And so the question will be is, all of my constituents, are you going to buy into this? Is this something that you want? And so once you do the research, then you turn around and you give it to your constituents to see how they feel about it. One of the problems we have is that we'll make a decision and hadn't even consult our constituents. I'm talking about all our constituents. And then come to an agreement that we're not going to do this. And the reason why we're not going to do this is because it harms our community. It does more harm than good to our community. And so we look at it from one or two people saying, oh, let's put this bill before folk and let's go ahead and push it through, or a group getting together and saying, we want this done because it be in the best interest of this group. But the masses of the people will suffer morally. And that's the thing that we don't address is the moral issue that these bills cause us. And then how do we speak out against it? Most of us are quiet, whether we're in the church or out of the church. No matter where we are, we're quiet. So now, give the people the voice. My job is to give you the voice. I need to be the voice for you, but I need to give you the voice. And you have the voice. You tell me what you want. You say no, I'm going to say no. You say yes, and I know it's immoral, I'm going to still say no. I have a moral principle, so I can't sit up here. I can't sit up here and play games with y'all because at the end of the day,
Thank you. Ms. Smalls?
Thank you for that question. This is why I got in this, one of the reasons why I got in this race. I believe that government is going too far. I believe in this bill. I believe we need this bill. Parents have the right to have say-so over their children's health care and their education. So I do support this bill. What's happening right now in some states across America, they are taking parental rights away. And if these children feel like they want to be something else, they are bypassing the parents. And these children's brains are not even fully developed to know who they are, what they are yet. So we have to stop this madness that is going on in this country. Again, we have to safeguard our children. We have to protect our children because they are our future. And we cannot allow things like this to continue down this dangerous path.
Thank you. Speaking of transition into education, this past year, education has been front and center. Just last month, the South Carolina Board of Education released a draft proposal that would create a standard on how to select books that are allowed or not allowed in school libraries. Many worry this is government overreach, and they call it book banning. How do you plan to address these issues as a senator? We start with Mr. Addison.
I think parents should be involved with the books that their children are reading, are studying. But also, I think churches. I mean, if you want to change the books and all that our kids are going to learn from, my grandmother taught us how to read from Sunday school. Our churches need to get more involved with the educational process of our children. Before I got to kindergarten, I knew how to read, so did my cousins. So we just can't rely on the school system to tell us what we're going to allow our children to read. I was in a meeting a couple of days ago, and it was talking about critical race theory. And I asked the question about the Orangeburg massacre that occurred in the 60s. And I asked, was that critical race theory? Room got quiet. So my thing is, we learned about that massacre in church. We learned about a lot of our history in church. I encourage the pastors and deacons and different church groups, open your churches up in the afternoon and start educating and tutoring our children. Grab them now when they're so impressionable and they need us. Don't just rely on the school system, because we go off to school. When I was in school, the first black male teacher I had was Dr. Leroy Davis at South Carolina State. I went to school in Hartsville, and I was on college trajectory, so I never saw a black male teacher. There were a couple of them there, but I never was taught by one except in Sunday school. And so Sunday school gave us that fundamental principle and belief. And I'm a big proponent of putting prayer back in church because I think it'll help with some of the mental problems that we having. If our children have something they could fall back on, and I believe prayer changes things. It changed a lot of things in my life. Take you from the project to wherever you want to go. And what we're saying, though, when it comes to books, if they're going to ban the book and you think it should be taught to your kids, put it in your church. Teach it to them.
Thank you. Tamika Isaac Devine.
Again, this is another situation where it's convenient. If it's not government overreach to tell you what schools can, what books can be in schools, but then it's government overreach to say that you can't commit a crime against somebody because it's hate. Which way do you want to have it? But for me, I am adamantly opposed to a process that allows anybody to make a complaint about a book that is not reviewed by professionals. So currently, we have a situation where if there is a concern about a book, it can be reviewed by a committee and the school board, and then they can make a decision. Just recently, earlier this year, Rich Lex 5, there was a complaint about a book called Black is a Rainbow Color. I bought that book for my 6-year-old for Christmas, and we read it. It is a beautiful book about how black is beautiful. The complaint about it is because there is a picture in this book that has a sign that says Black Lives Matter. And the complaint from Moms for Liberty said that we do not want that because that is a hate group. Well, let me tell you who's a hate group according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Moms for Liberty. Who is Moms for Liberty wanting to be your next senator? So we all have to realize where we are and where our laws need to be. Currently, if there is a book that is not age appropriate, that should not be in the books, be in the school, there is a professional review process, and then the school board can decide whether or not that book needs to come out of the school. But there needs to be a basis for that. And I think that we need to have that kind of system, and I think that system does need to be codified and not leave it up to the superintendent of education or of a select few, because we do know that that is part of government overreach.
Thank you. Chris Nelms.
Yes, I think we all are on one accord with this, that it is government overreach. One of the things that I want to remind you is that we run government don't run us. And I think we need to continue to put and place that in our minds. I'm going to keep saying that throughout the night, that we, all of you, run government. And we need to be sure of the power that we possess. One of the problems we've had in our community is that we have been go along to get along. That's the philosophy that has been taught to you subliminally. And one of the problems is that we got to stop this madness. We do it. And so when we start talking about CRT, critical race theory, there are a whole lot of rich history that many of us don't know. I was talking to a brother today, Blackstock. You know what Blackstock, South Carolina is? On the other side of Winsboro. Do you know why they call it Blackstock? Huh? Because that's where the slaves, that's what Blackstock was. Blackstock is what? And so when we start looking at some of the things that went on in South Carolina history, there are some crazy things that are going on. Some of the law firms, and one law firm come into mind, Nelson and Mullins. No, we need to turn around and go and visit their history. Father was a Confederate soldier. Now I like bringing stuff out because I do a lot of research on people in the state of South Carolina, so that when I talk to my people, I want y'all to understand who you're really facing. See, a lot of us like to cover the wool over our heads. It's okay, we'll get along. Well, Nellums don't go along to get along. And anybody know my reputation knows that, hey, I'm a fighter. And we have to fight from every aspect in every area.
Ms. Smalls. Ms. Smalls. Okay. Hold on, let me restart. Wait. All right, Ms. Smalls.
Okay. Thank you for that question. My first question to everyone will be, have you spoken to anyone from Moms for Liberty? I did as well. I'm not sure who you spoke to, but I did. And I had to ask those tough questions because I said, I need to be able to know what's really going on, because I am a Republican, and most of them are Republicans, and I'm going to have to defend it. So I need to know everything. I need to know all of it. And so I had these conversations. And they are not asking for books to be banned. They are asking for these books to be removed. Why? Because some of these books, they're just not age appropriate. They're full with sex. They're pushing transgender on them. They're pushing LGBTQ issues on our children. They're pushing gender confusion on our children. So these are parents that have stood up, and they're raising their voices, and they're saying, we don't want our children. We raise our children. We are the parents. We have to send them to these public schools. But we don't want them learning these things. We want them to go by my faith in my house. So I believe they have a right to say, I want this book removed. Now, do the school have to? No. But we are about protecting rights, aren't we? So they have a right to ask for these books to be removed. And when it comes to CRT, we want true history taught, all of it. What they are against is reverse racism. They are against saying that black people are, you are victims and we're superior over you. I'm not teaching my child that mess. Nobody's superior over me. I don't want my child taught that. They are against those things.
you.
So we have to.
Thank you. Moving on to economics, as a state senator representing District 19, how do you plan to advocate to ensure your constituents benefit economically from the arrival of companies like Scout Motors in Blythewood? We will begin with Ms. Smalls.
I'm sorry, I was still in the haze. I'm sorry. Can you please repeat the question?
As a senator representing District 19, tell us how you plan to advocate to ensure your constituents will benefit economically from the arrival of companies like Scout Motors in Blythewood.
Thank you for that question. There's a lot of work already being done to make sure that our people are ready for these jobs, because that was one of the biggest concerns that we had. We don't want these jobs being someone from out of the state coming and get these jobs like Detroit, Atlanta. We want to make sure that if you're coming here, you need to be able to provide the jobs for our people. So there's a lot of work right here in our community that's already being done to make sure that our people have the skills for these jobs. Scout Motors is also working with different schools to make sure that is done as well. So the work is being done.
Thank you. Mr. Chris Nelms.
Yes. Let me say one other thing before we hit that about Moms for Liberty. Y'all know it's a sex scandal going on with that too. So you need to look at the whole picture. Research again. Now on this issue in Blythewood, here's the thing that I look at. When they come to South Carolina, one of the things that have happened in South Carolina, they come to get all our raw materials and they benefit, and then they don't pay no taxes. And then you left holding the tax bag. Okay? Then when it comes down to investing in our community, one of the problems we have in our community is that our money leaves out of our community. So the reason why we can't progress, we're going around in this vicious circle because of the fact that we have not understood, I'm talking about government has not understood that you got to put something in the pot and allow it to stay in the pot. And most of us are here this evening to hear what we're going to talk about, how we're going to keep the money in the pot. You want to know how you're going to survive when this company flourish and decide that they want to fly the coop. So, and that's another question, is not so much entry as how they exit. And that's what we don't look at. We talk good about the $85, $90 billion they're going to bring and how they're going to stimulate the economy, just like Mack Truck Company did, and then you got a town like Winsboro that's high and dry. And guess what? What we need to do is we need to have a plan of action. I have a plan of action for it. So I'm going to be looking up in their face. I expect for you to leave money to my communities. And here's the thing, you got the pre-plan. This is where we get the community together and we start pre-planning right now. Now, I'm talking about 90 days. Give me 90 days and I'm going to have a plan. I already got the plan worked out. 90 days, that's all I'm asking you. 90 days.
Thank you. Ms. Tamika Isaac Devine.
Thank you. There were a very specific question about, as the next state senator, what will you do in working with Scout Motors? There's lots of things, but let me just start with 3 things. Number one, we have to make sure there's workforce development. That is making sure that we're working with Midlands Tech, but also our K-12 education. I had the distinct pleasure as a council person working with Richland One in starting their CDL licensing program. So I have the experience of working with the school district on workforce development. So we need to have preparing our young people for the jobs that will have Scout. Second of all, we need to make sure as they build and they develop that they're environmentally friendly and that we're planning for the growth that comes with Scout. That means we have to look at affordable housing. We have to look at the infrastructure of our roads. We need to look at the investment in our schools because Scout will have an impact on all of those things. So working with them and planning and being proactive, not reactionary once they're already here. And as they develop, make sure they're environmentally friendly. We also know that they had to stop construction because of environmental permits that weren't there. That should have been something done in the forefront. As a former chair of the Environmental Justice Committee, I work with companies on that. And thirdly, we have to make sure they're a good community partner, and that is investing in our community by supporting our schools, sponsoring our small businesses, working with our small businesses as a mentor. If they're small business and providing opportunities for our small businesses to serve them, all the services that they'll be providing, that they'll be buying, that they don't buy from somewhere else, but they buy from the companies here. So those are just a couple things. And as we work with them, it is about being a good communicator, letting them know what's expected, but also going to them and saying, these are things where we have needs in the community. Now, how are you going to be a good community partner and help us provide those things?
Thank you. Mr. Addison?
Well,
Sorry. Wait, let me restart that over for you and be fair. Mr. Addison?
yes, with Scout Motors, there's two other companies, one coming to Florence, South Carolina, across from Wilson High School, and also one in Walterboro, these electric vehicles battery plants. And I'm concerned about the environmental issue because we don't want to everyone knows batteries have lead in them. We don't want this to turn into a Flint, Michigan. But my key point, once again, how does this affect black, small, minority, and women-owned businesses? See, they could come to our communities, but are our businesses benefiting? See, when they leave, our companies are still here, our small businesses. In certain jurisdictions, we should have a set-aside of at least 30 to 35% for small, black, minority-owned businesses so that our businesses can continue to grow, even if they, like the brothers say, pack up and leave. A fair share of the work has been done by our local companies, and monies have been earned by our local companies that stay within our communities, and employment is increased by that. And so all of the ancillary businesses that come up as a result of a company like Scout Motors coming, they're getting set aside on taxes. So why should we not mandate that certain amount of business go to our small, black, and minority-owned and women-owned companies? I think that would be critical. And as far as the infrastructure, bringing 4,000 jobs means you're going to have an issue with roads. I always joke and say Blythewood got one traffic light. I mean, what are you going to do with all the traffic up there and the infrastructure? So I would love to meet with the mayor and talk about that, because what about the small, minority, and black-owned contractors out here who build? Are they a part of this? See, this is a chance. The philosophy is that when the tide comes in, all the ships in the harbor rise. So why are our ships not rising? And they will rise if we mandate it. It's our legislation. I would propose that immediately, and I'm going to give him his 90 days too, because as he worked with me as the senator, I'm going to give him 90 days.
Thank
I
you.
promise you I'm going to give him.
Thank you. We're moving on over to this, so we'll begin with Mr. Addison. Briefly explain to us why you do or do not support Medicaid expansion in South Carolina.
As a physician, chiropractic physician, we accept Medicaid as well, but it's very, very low reimbursement. But, if we expanded Medicaid, 315,000 people will be insured in South Carolina alone. 315,000. Oftentimes, doctors turn people away because of their inability to pay, and doctors still got to keep the business open. I think we should have Medicaid expansion, but also we should have Medicare. And if our legislatures in the Congress and the State House can have access to those programs, why shouldn't the average person have access? And what I see happening is that most black men don't go to the doctor. I've been doing this for 32 years, and it's no secret until it's critical. And when they come to me, I'm like, I'm the bridge between you and Jesus, because I'm here when everybody else done said they can't do nothing else for you. And so you want to now take my approach, whether it's smoking marijuana or finding a herb or something to help you out. We know what it takes to get the recuperative powers of the body restored. So I would like to have a healthy 2 wellness checks for everyone to go see the doctor a year in this state. If you're a citizen of this state, you should have 2 free visits, no copay, no deductible, to go see the doctor. Because oftentimes you don't have the $30, $40, $50, $75, $100, and if you have to come to a specialist, it's like almost $200, $300 copay. And deductibles, I'm like, nah, that's not what we're about. And a lot of doctors want to see the patients, but we need to set up a parameter so that we can get them in. And so think about it, 315,000 people will be insured if we expanded it. So I will push for that expansion, and so that our people can be insured and that we can visit the doctors.
Thank you. Ms. Simikazi Devine?
The question, do I support expansion? Absolutely. And the reasons why. First and foremost, Medicaid expansion is economic development. If we have good people who are healthy, then we have workers that are healthy. We have teachers that are healthy. And so we need to expand Medicaid. Secondly, if you look at District 19, particularly 29203, 29203 has the biggest health disparities in the country. When you look at diabetes, hypertension, we have got to address the health disparities in District 19. And if we're able to expand Medicaid, we will be able to increase access to health care and access to preventative services for folks who need it. And then thirdly, looking at where we are in 29203 and in the state. If we're able to expand Medicaid, not only does it increase access to health care, provide better health outcomes for people, but it also allows for economic development opportunities within our community. Right now in 29203, I remember when I first moved into my house, there were lots of small minority doctors who had practices all up and down North Main. Now they've retired, and Prisma and others are buying these practices. We don't have the access. We don't have doctors who look like us, who understand our health issues in our community. If we were able to expand Medicaid, we will be able to recruit doctors, recruit health personnel to be right here and be in our communities so that they can talk to us about our sugar and our salt, and they understand our communities, our lifestyles, our culture, and be able to address our healthcare needs that is particular to us.
Thank you. Mr. Chris Nels?
Yes, I think we all going to agree on this, and there's no need of me beating this up. One of the things that I do want to add to this conversation, and I take a different twist with it, and that is, we need to be more conscious about what we eat, exercising. And so there are some things that I want to do for District 19 that when I say health initiative, when I look at health initiative, I go to the root of the problem. Yes, y'all talking about the expansion, but I want to get down what you eating. And then let's talk about the garden in your backyard, what you're growing, okay? Then we want to talk about what you're exercising. We sit in front of the computer, in front of our cell phones and all these other little things. And so we'll run to the doctor, but then we won't take care of ourselves. We expect a little pill to take care of ourselves. Remember, the immune system does the healing. See, we got our theology, not theology, we got our mind all messed up. Anytime we get sick, we run to the doctor. Now, why don't y'all just come with Nelson for a second and let us live, not die? Because that's what we're doing. Insulin, what does insulin do? What, it bypass the pancreas just so you can, is that what happened? Now, and I think about my father. He was on insulin, started out before he passed. He was 95. By the time he passed, we had got him down where he wasn't taking any insulin, because we were giving him vegetables. We were natural stuff. So, and what happened is you can get that pancreas to start working again. So what happened is we done forgot about the human body and what God has given us, which is the immune system. That's why I say I'll take a different twist on it. My problem is that sometimes we don't like what Nelson say, because what Nelson's saying is something that's reality.
Thank you so much. I want to give you, hold on, I'll make sure you got your right time. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Smalls, your 2 minutes beginning now.
Okay. I agree with Medicaid expansion with a work component. Most of the people, for able-bodied workers, most of the people in our state get their health care through their jobs. A law was passed a couple of years back to extend parents being able to keep their children on their insurance up until the age of 26, giving them time to get themselves together in the workforce. Right now, we have in this state, there's a lot of people who are in between Medicaid, they're off their jobs, and Medicare. And these are the people who need assistance. But we have people who are not working, who are receiving these assistance, when we could be better serving our community for those who cannot work. So I agree with Medicaid expansion. We all, majority of us in this room, work and we get our health insurance for our jobs. So I don't see there a problem with them working and maybe 20 hours or so to get the Medicaid.
Thank you. The other question here, do you all or do you not support minimum wage increase in South Carolina? We will begin with Ms. Smalls.
Minimum wage increase?
Minimum wage increase in South Carolina.
Okay. I did a study on this, and minimum wage was set in this country back during the Great Depression, when unemployment was at 25%, banks were failing, and people were losing their homes. It was a horrific time for Americans. And so the federal government intervened and set a federal minimum wage so that employers had to at least pay this minimum. I believe that we need to give our people the skills, techniques, the knowledge and experience so that they can get living wages by applying for jobs that are actually paying more. I believe, again, that's government overreach. When we make small businesses to have to pay a certain wage when the job may not even require that much amount of work. So I believe government should stay out of that. But if crisis was to arise in this country, I'll be willing to look at that. Right now, the unemployment in Richland County is at 3.3. People are employers are wanting to pay more because people don't have the skills. And so they know that if they want to have good workers, they're going to have to pay more money. So right now, the market is driving the wages. And they know that they have to pay. And I believe we should just leave it there at this time. And again, if crisis arise, I will consider something like that.
Mr. Nelms?
I've owned a business, been running a business for over about 35 years, and I've always been fair with my employees. I'll be the first one to tell you, and that's only because of my upbringing, what we were taught, our family, that we respect people. And yes, whenever you are paying someone and you're requiring them to work, they want to feel like they're earning their pay. I think one of the problems is that we don't respect our employees enough, and then we don't have the respect of the employers. So there has to be a relationship. And one of the problems is that we don't nurture that relationship. I treat my employees, even though they are family, most of them are family, I treat them as family. That's one of the things that we don't do. I've had many folk work for me, but I treat them all as family. And so I'm for the raise, and I even go on to say that $15 an hour is not too much. Some people will say, but $15 an hour is really not that much when you look at what's going on in this economy as a minimum wage. And then the second thing that comes to mind is that the insurance part. Folk need to have insurance. That's one of the issues that we have, is that they don't have insurance. So now back on the government back. So I think we can do a whole lot. And then as we build this economy, that's the whole thing, is that we build this economy, keep the money at home. And I'm going to keep saying that we got to keep the money in our community. We got to keep the money at home. I think we'd be all right. So yes, I believe in the $15 an hour. Yes, I believe in it.
Thank you. Ms. Tamika Isaac Devine.
Thank you. Absolutely. And I don't think we need to have a minimum wage. I think we need to have a living wage. And your living wage is based on the cost of living of where you are. And we have to count for affordable housing, which we don't have affordable housing here. So there are people who actually have to live somewhere else and commute to come to work. And so we have to have a living wage. And I fully support making sure there is a minimum wage and getting that done. At the City of Columbia, we actually passed a living wage several years ago at my urgence because we were looking at our policemen and firemen and others who still don't get paid enough, but they were having multiple jobs because they weren't making enough money. So we did that at the City of Columbia, and I think we need to do that on a state level. Just last year, I was part of the advocacy team that advocated for not having a sub-minimum wage. How many people know that employers, if someone had a disability, they could actually pay them less than minimum wage? And that was happening in our state up until last year. And I was at the State House every day with Able SC trying to advocate for that, and we did get that passed. But we have to increase minimum wage. We have to increase it in our state. And then the last thing I would say is, it concerns me when I hear people talk about we don't need it, people can just have a good job. I know lots of great people who want to work that have 2 and 3 jobs and they still can't make ends meet. If you pay people minimum wage, but you expect them to be home with their kids because the family is deteriorating, but they have to work to feed those kids, where is the government there? We don't want to overreach, but we don't want to support our families. And so we're at a point now where we have to have people who are unapologetic to stand up for working families in this state. And so part of that is not only advocating for an increase in minimum wage, but also.
Mr. Addison.
You know, we recently removed our investment with Disney of $105 million. There was another report that came out there, millions of dollars from lottery money that's just sitting in an account. As a business owner, I would love to pay my workers $20, $30 an hour, minimum wage. But I think if we got all this money, and like we said, the government needs to intervene, we should subsidize our employers. Because it's not just a matter of giving you a minimum wage, I still got to match that with FICA. If you own a business, you know what I'm talking about. These are things you don't get to see, but I still got to match that. Then I got workers' comp, and then that goes up. And so we got to look at how it's going to affect the business owner. And then the business owners, like I propose to get $100 million in grants and loans for this area, District 19. I know how we can get it. I got the numbers. I run the numbers. I'd like to meet with the treasurer, Curtis Loftus. I mean, we just sent $30 million to Israel. But yet we still got homelessness here and businesses that need our help. You know, so I look at numbers. I deal in facts. My thing, if it's to make dollars, it makes sense. And so let's look at how we can subsidize the businesses. And if we can subsidize the businesses, then they can provide a living wage. But if the business is struggling, because most of our businesses in this black community are undercapitalized. And you go to the bank, look what's happening with Navy Federal, discriminating against black businesses and blacks who want to get mortgages. And it's not just with Navy Federal. This right here in Columbia. You know, but if we're part of the legislature, I want you guys to open up your nonprofit organizations and address this. And then I want you to come to me as your senator and let me find funding, whether it's earmarks, pass-throughs, or whatever. Let's find funding for your nonprofit to help support these businesses, to help put ideas in the community. I'm about making money. Because, see, a lot of problems we have because we ain't got no money.
Thank you. We are going to be moving over now to the close. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm sorry. She has a rebuttal. I'm sorry. Ms. Smalls.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to what I said, because I look at people's income for a living, and I don't see many people making minimum wage. A lot of these employers, like I said, they know they are paying more money. McDonald's paying $12 and $15 an hour, and then they seeing that they have to go up because people are just not taking this anymore. And so because they are demanding more, employers are paying more, and they know that they need to pay more. And I just believe we need to keep it that way, because when we make people do it, then we're going to have inflation, because all they're going to do is up the prices on everything, and then they're not going to give people the benefits. And so you're going to have other unbalanced issues.
Okay. Before we move over to closing statements, candidates, is there any other questions that you all may want to rebut each other off of what someone may have said? We're going to open up the floor to you all to just, we'll give you about 30 seconds, I'll give you a minute, where you all could browse through your notes. And while they are doing that, we just want to remind everybody again that tomorrow is the last day for early voting. If you're not going to make it to vote on Tuesday, please make sure that you do that as well. And we do have one of our workers here who's going to be coming forth with some questions for us as they get ready to do that as well. Candidates, are you all good? Any rebuttals? Any rebuttals, anybody? Okay. Okay, so we do have some questions, and we'll just take a look at, we know we're getting closer to our end time here, but here is a question that we want to ask over here. While I try to read the handwriting, I apologize. With the rise of mental health problems in the community, what is the plan of action to tackle the needs of those who need immediate help? Anybody who wants to answer that question? Ms. Timmy-Gaza Divine.
This is a huge issue that's very near and dear to my heart. Part of my legal practice is I'm a probate attorney that gets appointed for folks who are dealing with mental illness and substance abuse issues. And so I see the critical need in our state. One of the biggest issues is our state has continued to decrease funding for mental health. The State Department of Mental Health has decreased funding over the last 10 to 15 years, and there are a lack of places for people to get treatment. So one of the things as the Next State Center is I will be looking at the State Department of Mental Health and how can we, number one, adequately fund them, but two, provide services in the community for those who have mental health issues. As a former city council person, I did work to create the first mental health court here in the state, as well as the first homeless court in the state. And so we were able to provide people with services. But there are other things that a lot of the states are doing. We have the mobile crisis unit, so we need to increase funding for that. We also need a mobile unit that helps people who do have their medications. And then going again back to Medicaid expansion, there are a lot of folks who are suffering mental health issues that are not covered. And so if you expand Medicaid, they will have access to better mental health as well. And then lastly, we have to recruit our psychiatrists and our social workers. Social work is a huge area where we are losing people every single day, not only because we're not paying them enough, but because of the stress that goes with being there. We need to have an opportunity to support our mental health professionals, not just through pay, but also through quality of life issues.
Next question for any candidate. What do you plan to do to retain highly qualified teachers? Who would like to take that one? Mr. Addison, go ahead.
I think we need to really go with the approach with our universities and make it show that some of our teachers can actually pass the praxis test. Oftentimes we have great teachers, but we have so much red tape at getting them into practice. And so we need to revisit how they're qualified and also give a grace period while they're like an internship. You have some really wonderful teachers out there, but they can't get past the standard test. And if the standard test is more culturally based, then those are things we have to look at. So I will go to our institutions of higher learning and make sure that we have a system in place that's universal to help teachers get certified so that they can get into the classroom, and especially more male teachers into the classrooms.
And let me add just one other thing, one other component to that, is that teachers going through the same thing that most of us go through, housing. I know in the school district in Fairfield County, they're providing houses for their teachers to encourage them to recruit them. And that's something that we can do. And then getting the teachers back in the community. It used to be a day when our teachers, you could go up the street and talk to your teacher. Now, more often our teachers don't live in the same community with us, so that may be a way of the schools kind of partnering with the teachers in the community and making the community as well as the teachers grow together.
Yes.
I just want to add the fact that our teachers are leaving by the droves because of the behavior issues that are going on in our schools. So we need parents to start parenting again. You know, we got to help them out. And so with everything that they're going through right now, I do believe they need more pay because they go through a lot and their hands are tied, so they need more money.
They need more money, they need time to plan, but they also need to be able to teach. We also have teachers who are leaving in droves because they are worried about being prosecuted, arrested because they talk about race in the classroom. And so we have legislation that is being proposed that actually would penalize teachers. Again, in Rich Lex 5, there was a teacher who was teaching from a book from Ta-Nehisi Coates. That teacher got suspended and is back in the classroom now, but a recent article in the state paper, and you can all fact check it, she was concerned about the fact that anybody can make a complaint because a child in her classroom doesn't want to hear about someone else's lived experience of being a Black American in this state or in this country. And so we have to make sure that if we want to talk about government overreach, we need to allow our teachers to teach. They're professionals, things that are age appropriate, and not feel like a parent who is mad because their child wants to ask them questions about why was there slavery, or why did the person with the Confederate flag shoot down 9 parishioners in school, and you don't want to talk about it. You complain about that teacher, and that teacher gets suspended.
We're moving on over to our closing remarks right now. We're edging closer to the 8:30 hour, and we want to begin with you, Mr. Addison. 2 minutes, your final closing remarks.
Well, I'm Dr. Michael Addison, and I've enjoyed being here tonight. Thank you, guys. What a wonderful audience. You know, we have 4 great candidates here. I would love to work with them going forward, regardless of the outcome, because we have some great ideas that we need to implement. But we need to go in and develop our nonprofit organizations. We need to take time to read, go to the library, research the things you need to do so you can become viable. So you could come to one of us if we're in the office and say, hey, I need funding. I need $250,000 for my project. Can you assist me? And we can work in a collaborative effort with our congressman office as well. You know, but we got to think about our children. We have some great kids. I mean, I raised 9 children. My youngest is 21, and they're all doing their own thing. But what are we going to do to safeguard their futures? And no matter what mental problems you're having, if you trace it back, a lot of it is because you're broke. You ain't got no money. You ain't got no food. You're stressed out. Nobody want to talk about intimacy. Nobody want to talk about going to church. I mean, when you can't pay the bills, it causes a lot of mental stress. So if we could be real now, I mean, keeping it real, that's what I do. You know, and so if we could get funding, we can help our small businesses, then our businesses can employ our people at $15, $20 an hour. And so if Scott Motors come and don't stay, our businesses grew in the process. So we can take over and do what we have to do. Listen, I would love to be your senator, but regardless, I'm going to the Senate as your senator or as a lobbyist. I'm asking 10 of you to join me as lobbyists. Now, Jesus had 12. The reason why I chose 10, because he had one that denied him 3 times and one that betrayed him. So I'm going to stick with 10.
Oh, boy, I tell you, okay. I mean, that was a good point, though. For those that know the Bible, that was a good point. Okay. I want to make sure I have to Miss Tamika Isaac Divine here full 2 minutes. Hold on. Tamika Isaac Divine, final comment.
Thank you, and I got to stand up. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to Dr. Addison, Mr. Nellums, and Ms. Smalls, because it's hard to stand up here and talk to you all. So I commend everybody who is up here as a candidate. I'm Tamika Isaac Devine, and I'm running to be your next state senator to continue to work with and for you to make sure that District 19 is strong. We're at a critical time in our state. We've talked about a lot of issues here today, from our education system, from healthcare, to jobs and fighting poverty, to making sure that we're respecting the diversity and equity and inclusion within our state and not trying to whitewash our history and rewrite the things that have happened in the past. We can't look in the past, but we have to look in the future. But in order for us to have somebody at the State House that is there to fight for us, we're gonna have to have somebody who understands the issues, who's not up here just to make you laugh or to give you talking points or to say, I'll research that later, but someone who actually knows what's happening on the ground in District 19. I've worked with you for many, many years in this community as an elected official and not as an elected official. And I'm going to continue to work for this community. But as your next state senator, I will have the ability to actually be at the State House fighting for you every single day, making sure that the resources that we need in District 19 are here and making sure that our voices are heard at the State House. So I ask for your vote and your support in the special election. Tomorrow is the last day to early vote. If you don't early vote, Election Day is January 2nd. We cannot allow anyone to let our district go back. Thank you.
Mr. Chris Williams.
This has been a great evening, and God has blessed us all, regardless of how the outcome of this election. God has blessed us, and we need someone who's going to move us forward and lead us. And the real issue here this evening is not which one of us is qualified. One of the things that is toiling through your mind is the fact that this is a chance for us to change our ideology. We've been going down the road and we need to make some transformation in our change. Chris Nellums, myself, Chris Nellums here, is asking you to do something that you've never done before, is to vote for a United Citizens Party. And those that don't know who the United Citizens Party, back in '69, that was the party of us. And this party stood for us and still standing for us. Without wavering, no compromising, we are standing strong and we're moving forward. And so I'm asking you to elect me, give me 90 days for results. And you can chart my results each and every day. I told the TV station to chart me, follow me, and see what I'm going to do. And you'll see me mobilize this community and get the community moving as a juggernaut. And then preparing ourselves to move to the next level. Because here's the problem. We're still talking about downtown and we haven't gotten our act together. I can do this. I've done it with the church and I can do it with the people. Because pastors, that's what we do. We pastor people. That's what we do. And we're experiencing that. And so we're doing something different. And then we're bringing God back home. See, the problem is we're missing God. We can talk about all kind of legislation. We can talk about all the things we want to do, but at the end of the day, it's about God. And when we get God in the house,
Thank you. And the final candidate, Ms. Smalls.
Thank you again for hosting this event. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, where there's no vision, the people perish. I consider myself to be a visionary. And the vision has been written and is being written as we go through this. I've been adding, and I'm ready to hit the ground running. I believe that I have the most to prove, because if I don't, I'm going to be out of here very quickly. So I am planning to work my behind off for Senate District 19. I believe that Senate District 19 is ready for real change. I don't believe that, I'm just running for this seat. I believe I've been called to this seat. And I'm ready to work for each and every one of you. I'm a servant leader. I'm ready to serve you. One of my gifts, I'm a good listener, and I will listen to your needs, and I will be there. And I just want you to know, nothing changes until we change. This is an opportunity of a lifetime to take us on a different path to success, to do something different. We cannot continue down this same path doing the same thing. Also, I believe in limited terms. I believe that when your time is up, it's time for you to go. And let somebody else come in, and that's why I'm here. So I'm asking for your vote and your support. Again, I'm here to serve. The door is open. I just need you to help me get in there, all the way in there. So I'm asking for your prayers and your support. Thank you.
Let's give all the candidates a round of applause. Now, the candidates will be available after we give the benediction. We're going to bring forth Bishop Eric Warren Davis, the pastor of Word of God Church and Ministries International.
Thank you, Friendy. This was a very spirited discussion. There were a lot of points that came out that I would love to have heard more discussion. I know we were limited to 2 minutes, and because of the time constraints. We need more of this in our community, and I appreciate you all for coming out on a Thursday night in the middle of the holidays and thinking that this was important enough for our district, for our community, for you to be present and accounted for, but also made aware of the positions of each of these candidates. A lot of times we go to the polls in ignorance, and we vote ignorantly because we don't know the facts, we don't know the candidates, and because we've not been in position to learn. So you've had an opportunity tonight to hear each one's position. Whether you agree or disagree with their position, you now know who they are. And so you have an opportunity to make an informed decision. I would say to the Block 19 group, and I want to acknowledge some of the key people who have been working behind the scenes to, constantly keep this thing congealed and together so we can get through these elections. Because the voter turnout, as we all know, was not what it should have been in the special election. So we want to make sure that we all do our part, not only the team, but those of us as a community, to push our fellow citizens out to get to the polls. There's no reason that we should have 70,000 people in the district and only 4,000 vote. That's egregious. That's dereliction of duty. So I'm glad that you're here, but we have to get the word out to the rest of us that we must do our parts. But I will say that as a team, we did meet, first meeting with Scout Motors, because this is an important company that's coming into the region that's going to bring 4,000 jobs. Now, that's going to impact a number of companies. It's going to impact the entire region. It's going to pull from other companies because as they bring some of those higher wages in, there's a lot of things that are going to revolve around that Columbia alone will not be impacted. Fairfield, Sumter, people will drive for miles around. But the interesting thing that we found as a Block 19 group when we met with Scout Motors, even though Scout is front-facing Blythewood, its back door is Senate District 19. They've had 12 meetings with Blythewood and none with Senate District 19. Well, that's because we have to be advocates for our own agendas and our own issues the same way other people are. So what I'm saying to you is there will be subsequent meetings where we're meeting with Scout so that we can put our agenda on the table, our issues on the table. They can know about our communities, our needs, what we want, what we expect, because it needs to benefit the entire community and not just a faction of the community. So it's important that when the call goes out, that you attend, because lives are at stake, income is at stake. Many things that they talked about are at stake, and you cannot be represented if you don't essentially represent yourself at the table. And so thank you all for coming out, and I want to acknowledge the block members. I want to acknowledge Ms. Lynn Hutto in the back there, who's been a major workforce in the back, advocate, so thank you, Lynn. I want to acknowledge Dr. Henry Clear, who is also a major component of what we do in the community. Sister Angela Bishop, on the front row over here. Thank Angie. She's more or less been a coordinator to help keep everything together. Deacon Willie Bryant, who's right next to her, we appreciate you for all that you do in terms of mobilizing and pulling everybody together. These are some of the core people. I don't want to miss anybody. Some of the other ones couldn't make it tonight. They're on stream. And by the way, we are, and I want to ask the team, the stream can be replayed because some people came on late, right? Good. So they can go back it up, and they can watch the entire session. If you go to YouTube and search Block 19 on YouTube, you'll pull the entire candidates forum up. I want to thank the candidates again. Thank you all for coming out. We're going to let them go ahead and move out to their tables. We're going to have a closing prayer, but we let them go ahead and set up. I'm sorry? You want to stay for the prayer? All right. Yeah, we need to pray for y'all. Yeah, all right. I know Pastor Ron Best, who was also a committee member. He's here. I'm going to ask him to come up and do the closing prayer. Let's all stand on our feet. Thank you all again for coming out tonight.
Let us pray. God in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful evening. We thank you, God, for the spirit in the atmosphere. We know, God, that it's your divine presence. We thank you, God, for your covering. We ask now, God, for your divine intervention, that you would do what is necessary for your people. Nothing happens unless your spirit moves. So we ask, God, for a divine move of your spirit, that your will might be done for these your people. Cover every household that has attended this night, every candidate that have put themselves forward. You know the heart. You know the heart of intent. So, God, we pray that the heart of intent will find favor with you, and that you would elevate, and that you might get the glory. Cover us this night as we shall leave this place, but never your presence. In Christ's name, amen.
Hey, can we also give God praise for our moderator, Friendly Clairvaux? And I want y'all to know that those challenging questions came from Friendly. Friendly really threw some questions in there tonight. All right. All right.
And for those of you all, once again, that want to rewatch the stream, you have to spell out Block 19. You have to spell it out completely. So you know we spell out B-L-O-C-K and 19, N-I-N-E-T-E-E-N, all right? So make sure you spell it completely out. Oh, as a matter of fact, it's right here. Thank you so much, media team. At Block 19, this is where you will find it.